So this is episode one of This Is Not Art Therapy, the podcast, where me and my good friend John talk about art stuff. Do you want to say hi, John?
Hi. Yeah, introduce myself. Josiah Jonathan Hurley Goodyear the fifth. I have way too many names. You can call me Josiah, you can call me John, but whatever floats your boat. AKA me amigo. I'm cool with that.
Right
So
on.
I'm a relatively new artist to the space. I probably started about 3, 4 months ago. So
Right
I'm
on.
kind of a newbie, and I feel like Linnea is just such an expert when it comes to it. I think my entire experience with you, I've known you, you've been an artist.
Ooh,
And
yeah. And that's why I thought having conversations about art with you would be so fascinating because, and every time I tried to frame this in my head, it kind of came off with like a layer of judgment of like, oh, John is this like unlikely artist. And I'm aware that there's biases and judgments in that. But just having more conversations about you and your art pros has been really fascinating for me. As someone who's been, you use the word expert, I've never really called myself an expert, but just someone who is quite comfortable in artland to see John kind of come into that space and do his own thing has been really cool. So it's been very inspiring as well.
thank you, thank you. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm just like in a way little brother to a lot of people. Like
Oh,
maybe almost annoying with being like, how do you do like that sort of process, or like what made you think of like this sort of like inspiration behind whatever painting. Like I have a friend, his name's Mikey, and
yeah.
but yeah, like just bothering people, but in just because I'm just hungry to learn new things.
Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
that curiosity that is contagious for me. It's just like, oh yeah, I love that. That being a beginner at something and being so enthused and into it, like that is such a good energy to have. And I also find it contagious. So one of the intentions behind this podcast was to share that love of art with everyone, because everyone can make art.
Yeah, everybody can do art. That's why I started this sort of the medium, or I guess is medium the right word for it?
I think so,
Like,
yeah.
as
It's
in
not a
like
large.
styles. Yeah, so like my style is I use pens and paper just because it's like the most accessible. And to be honest, I started off my art journey off of my couch because I had just recently gone through a 3 month surgery for the second time, where I had basically been uh, sitting on like 4 months of doing nothing and being on my phone. And my little sister's actually the person who got me into art, and she just gave me a ballpoint pen and a piece of cardboard. And my first guy that I drew was Post Malone. It took 3 hours and it was terrible. And then the next day I tried to draw Post Malone again. It took another 3 hours. It was also terrible, but slightly less terrible. And I liked the fact that like I could see myself sort of getting better at these things. And yeah, I started with pen because I didn't want to deal with pencil shavings, which
Touche.
was, yeah, didn't want to deal with pencil shavings on my couch because I, couldn't really move at the time. But then I realized you have to be super careful with pen and pencil because if you make a mistake, you have to basically move like mountains to try and make it look halfway decent again.
Yeah.
So
And for a
yeah,
beginner to choose something so permanent, I think is it shows confidence. But
thank you.
now it also, now that I know the origin, it also shows convenience and accessibility too.
Yeah. So I recently started walking back again. So like slowly walking and traveling, and with like being able to lucky to travel to 4 different countries in basically the last 3 months. It's been really nice to see everybody else's style.
And
Yeah.
every space is going to have their own sort of version or representation of art, which is cool that you add that to your repertoire of, travel.
Yeah. Oh, every place was it was cool. Like I spent a little bit of time in some Latin areas, aka like Portugal and Spain, and like their art versus Turkey was 2 different worlds. Well, like 3, 4 different worlds basically. So it
Cool.
was really cool to see. Yeah,
Yeah, right on.
yeah, yeah.
So John and I are gonna continue talking, but we'll go over some art ideas that you're welcome to either do on your own time or as you're listening to us, if that's your thing, or you might not even want to do any of these art invitations because you they're not for you, and that's totally okay. So I'll quickly explain them. And again, I won't put too much detail into it because I really like when they're open for interpretation. So however you want to art these art ideas, have at her. So the first one is basically creating a self-portrait. I think it's interesting when artists create portraits throughout time and to see how they evolve. And what's also really cool about it is that it's incredibly unique to whoever makes it. So that's kind of the first thing. The next one is creating some sort of identity card or like kind of like a driver's license, but it's basically an affirmation that you're an artist. So it can be a little business card, it can be, some cutesy little thing that really communicates that you're an artist. And the third art invitation is very much inspired by the energy that John and I have because we can be quite different in times. So the idea of making art about two opposing parts of yourself, um, and putting them into one piece of art and seeing what comes out of that. So those are our art ideas. Taking them if you want them. John and I will go through these questions that we have. So
Yeah,
you did
like
kind of introduce yourself earlier. Is
yeah,
there anything else you want to add about who you are as an artist?
I don't want to sound redundant, but just new and ready to learn.
Yeah, right
Just
on.
just a keener. Who are you as an artist, Linnea?
Ooh, yeah. Well, I am also an art therapist, which is kind of the inspiration behind this podcast as well. Because this podcast is almost going to be kind of like a session, but John and I are friends. So we could never be therapist client because we are friends. And you can't do
Yeah,
therapy with your friends. So very much into art therapy as a visual artist. I do a lot of collage, mixed media. Right before our call, I was working on some collages. I also like to work with fabric and textiles, or like painting on clothes I have. I think that when you make what you wear as a piece of art, you can really share it with others because you get to literally show it off instead of art just staying on the walls. And it's
yeah,
interesting too because John also does, you have a t-shirt making company or like a printing company, I should say. So that's very
yeah,
visual art.
yeah. I was like about to say, I was like, it feels really cool when you're making your own thing and you get to represent yourself.
Hmm.
Uh, and I think the first time somebody complimented a shirt that I'd made with a friend, I took a picture with them.
Oh, I love that.
Like I was like, really? I was like, this is crazy. Like something that I had
Me?
made. And somebody said this is cool. I was like, on your own, unprompted. I was like, they're like, cool shirt, man. I was like, you don't know how much of a day you've just absolutely made my day.
Oh, I love that.
So,
When was this?
yeah. That would probably be when I first started up. My neighbor actually, he does silk screening as well, and we work
Oh, cool.
together. So he had these line of t-shirts he made up called Crooked Smile.
Oh,
And I thought they were really cool. It's got like a little demon head at the back. It's very much a Dartmouth shirt. Like that's
nice.
where I'm located out of. And it's got all kinds of like little nods to like Dartmouth. And it's called Crooked Smile. It's got some Chicano lettering. And yeah, it's a big pink shirt. So like it's bright and in your face, but then you have like these like demonic demons at the back of it.
Ooh,
So like
okay.
it's kind of it's a yin and yang kind of shirt.
Oh, I love
But
that. Kind of like that third art invitation, that opposing parts.
yeah, exactly.
Cool. It all comes full
Yeah.
circle. John, do you want to tell people how we know each other? And I might throw
Wow.
in my own hot take on it as well, because we're probably gonna have
Yeah, yeah,
views on this.
yeah. You dated my best friend. No kidding.
But that
True.
was after we started working
Yeah, started
together.
meeting, yes.
That's not how we met. That's just an aspect
No,
of
no,
our
no. That
connection.
that is that is the most shocking part of our friendship.
Yeah, I do remember that
But
moment and
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
where we were when I told you that.
With surprise, like just a total surprise. We worked at like a parachute manufacturing company,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is an odd place for two people to meet. So I had recently left the military full time, and my I had a friend who basically was like, "I feel like you'd be a good fit here," and like as somebody who was transitioning to like part-time civilian, part-time military, I'd been military for I think about 6 years at the time. I was like, yeah, this would be a great fit. So it's a really detailed sort of job where you're learning how to tie knots and make sure that it's absolutely correct, fold parachutes. And I had no prior work with this, but it was really a very physical, but like I don't know, I would say it's simple, but also a lot of real big responsibilities to make sure that you've done it right.
Hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, and
And we never
that was
dealt
where we
with
met.
human parachutes. I feel like we should make that
Yes.
clear. So, like, the risk is less if we screwed up, we weren't killing people.
No, no, we were just destroying cargo of
Yeah.
some kind,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly.
which is also bad.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns out people pay a lot of money
Yeah.
for things to be thrown out of planes or whatever to basically hit the ground and be safe. People want that to be very safe. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was important that we did our job correctly.
Yeah. I
What
had
really bad.
gotten started working there, and it was somewhat marketed to me as a humanitarian project. And I had just finished art therapy school out in BC, moved back to my hometown of Ottawa, and had a lot of debt. And this job was presented to me as this full-time job, slightly humanitarian. So in my mind, it was like, oh, we're crafting and it's humanitarian. So it was somewhat aligned with my art therapy thing, but it wasn't an art therapy job. But those aren't easy to find. So I had gone through so much schooling, and so much of my work before was very mental based of like, oh, I'll just be smart and life will be easy for me. And I also just been working at a nonprofit where, we all talked about our feelings together. We'd have check-ins and tell each other, how we feel. So it was a very big shift to go from touchy-feely, kumbaya job to this very male-dominated aerospace with a
Space.
whole bunch of men.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was. Yeah, you were the only girl working there at the time, and like everyone there was ex-military or some sort of engineer or
Yeah.
scientist,
Yeah.
basically. And I just remember being like, you stuck out like a sore thumb because like
Uh,
everyone there had like, if anybody does know military, had like 511 pants, the proper hiking boots, like polo shirts, and like Linnea would show up in like bright colors, like pins through like her jacket, and like I didn't know how to handle that.
yeah.
Like in a way, I was like, it was such a shift for me to basically be like, it's like their hair's not kept up properly. Like just that, like the
Or a
smallest,
natural
slightest
color.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like,
Yeah.
wow, it's not a natural. Yeah, no, you had bright colored hair, and like I was just like, and like respectfully, we were from completely different worlds.
Yeah.
But
And
was
they,
it was kind of funny because you would come up with ideas or be able to problem solve in ways that just me and the rest of this world were just like not ready to handle. We'd be like, what? And you'd often be right, which was annoying.
ooh.
But also like I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah, that's fair.
you'd be like, huh, maybe I do have to think about something in a different from a different angle,
Yeah.
you know?
That's
So
interesting that you name that because I did always kind of feel like the outcast in that profession. And that's probably I only lasted a year there and then I had to leave. It was just not in alignment with
yeah,
what I
yeah.
wanted to do.
I mean it's funny you say like outsider. You might have felt like an outsider, but because everything was so tiered, I always felt like I was on bottom rung, even though
Ooh,
I was in
okay.
that group. Like the other guys had so much different experiences and were, I would say, so much more hardcore than what I was.
Hmm.
Like, even though like some people may look at you and be like, judge and be like, oh yeah, that guy's a pretty tough guy or whatnot. I was looking at these other men and I was like, oh, I'm the bottom of the barrel here. And there's nothing I
Mm,
can do to change any of that.
yeah.
But yeah, it was still a good experience, I think, it was a good experience for me. I liked it. It helped me get myself out of, like we were both trying to move up in the world.
Yeah.
And that was a
Yeah.
it was a great way to do it.
We didn't get along for a lot of that. Maybe for like
Oh
half
my
of
God.
it. Hard to think about that. But it was my first time where there were parts of that job where I physically couldn't do it. And I was told growing up that you can do whatever you want, but there are th some things that I physically could not do because I was either too small or not strong, physically strong enough, I should say.
Yeah.
And I did
Yeah.
not like that. And it became so easy to John sometimes that I think there was some friction there because you could do these things and I couldn't, and I was probably angry at you for that. I'm guessing.
Yes, I know. I think it was that must have been tough because I remember you. I do remember you were hanging from basically like a chin-up bar, pushing in a parachute with your feet, and you're like, "This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life." and, and we were like, "She didn't even do a chin-up. She's just hanging from the bar. Like, what? What
I
do
don't
you mean?
remember
This is the
that.
hardest." Yeah, she goes, "This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life," and we're like, "That's not very hard." And then you like said, it was like a comic. You go, it's like I haven't had a very hard life. I was like, okay, and like we were trying to keep straight faces and be like, it's okay, you're doing great, just keep kicking, you're the smallest, you need to kick this parachute into the bag.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh man.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think totally opposite ends of it took a while for us to get into a groove, and it was
Hmm.
either we were going to just like murder each other or just become very good friends.
Yeah.
And I remember you had this plan to go to Germany, and I was like, yes, she's gonna be gone in my mind, right? And like and then you didn't go because you ended up dating my best friend for a moment. And I was like, I'm not. I remember being like, "You've what? What is happening? What is
I
going
think that
on with
was
my
the
world?"
olive branch because we
It
were in
really,
not
yeah,
good terms when that happened.
that was a that definitely was an olive branch. Like, because like I remember being like, "I accept it. It's fine. It's happening." And then you like looked up at me and you're like, "Stop making fun of me." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "It's fine. You can date my best friend. It's totally okay. Like, he's a great guy. You're lucky." And then you're like, "We broke up, you jerk." And I was like, "Oh, I really didn't know." And then I felt that. And then like from there, we just kind of kept working. Like that was
Okay.
there was a
Yeah.
shift. There was a shift there for me. That's how I
Yeah.
kind of remembered it.
Our job was very like we really needed to depend on each other. There were things that
Yeah.
could not get completed in our job unless we worked together. And there were times when we were not talking because we were just so frustrated with one another. And to have to do a job where you have to communicate and have to depend on someone that I don't want to say hate because that seems pretty strong.
Yeah.
Um,
Straight hates a lot, but just
yeah.
friction.
Yeah. There was some
Friction.
friction there. And
Yeah.
I just remember during one of these periods where we really weren't talking, I just randomly was like, "Oh, by the way, I went out on a date with Trevor last night." And you did not
Yeah.
believe me, and you asked me all these questions. He's like, prove it, like what kind of car
Yeah.
does he drive?"
No.
And I was like
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to provide you with the best information, even though I had just gone on one date with this guy.
Yeah. No, I remember being so shocked. I was like,
Yeah.
no, that's my Trevor. Oh God.
Yeah.
But as much as we didn't get along, and then you did kind of just have to move on and do your own thing. I remember they replaced you, and I was like, it was just another engineer, white guy, ready to work, straight laced, and we got to working together. And I remember being like, this will be great. It'll be so easy. And in certain aspects, it was easier. But then that guy just was like another cog in the machine. And I was like, huh, I really fucking miss my friend.
Aw.
Everybody's, you know, different. Everybody is special in their own rights. But I was like, there was somebody who was like vastly different from the type of person I'm used to working with. And like this guy, just great dude, nothing wrong with him at all. But just wasn't the same sort of, you brought like a different sort of like vibe aspect and like way we were going to do things together. And
Mhm.
like I had just gotten used to working in that world, and I was like, I kind of like this. I could get
Yeah.
used to this. And then you're like, I have to go, and I was like, what the what? It's
Yeah.
like we spent 6 months not liking each other, 6 months liking
Yeah.
each other, and then you're like, I'm out. And I was like, oh, my heart, you
Aw.
know.
Yeah.
So
And I
yeah,
left that job not having another job lined up. I just knew that I needed to be in art therapy land, but they
yeah,
weren't hiring.
they were. It was a risky move. So what did you end up doing?
What did I end up doing?
Yeah,
I worked part-time in restaurants for a bit and did some volunteering. I started
yeah,
hosting community events, similar to what I'm
nice.
doing now. I tried for the longest time to get hired as a therapist, but it was probably not a great time. It was before the pandemic, and I think there is this like belief amongst therapists that art therapy is lesser than therapy. And I've had to kind of prove myself in some therapy spaces that my profession, my education, etc., is valid. So that was a big thing. And I ended up maybe for a year and a half tried to get art therapy jobs, couldn't do it. So I just ended up starting my business because I was like, well, no one's going to hire me. So I'd better just make my own job.
Make a space where you're kind of where you're needed.
Yeah, exactly.
Because yeah, it does kind of suck working behind. Like it's needed to sometimes like, like whatever your situation is to like whatever you're doing for work, that's great. Whoever you are out listening to us, like the three of you.
Hmm.
But like I yeah, sometimes if you've got the opportunity to just start doing something, just go for it. Like, like I think it's super important to basically recognize like some people might not view art therapy as valuable as regular therapy, but like the fact that you're like, okay, I'm going to put a space here, and there might be a few people who are like, you know what, there's like 5 or 6 of us who are into that. Yeah, that works
Yeah.
for us, and you're actually helping those 5 or 6 people
Hmm.
in such a way that you don't know how much you've shifted their lives. So
Yeah.
it is valuable.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. Thank you. I
yeah.
appreciate that.
No,
Yeah.
no problem, no problem.
And I've been really loving it. I
Yeah,
can't imagine myself doing anything else. And just like the joy I see in my clients and their own growth, and also getting people into art, which is probably why, John, your this new love of art that you have has been so fascinating to me.
yeah,
Because, yeah, I don't know, we spoke about that like in that early enthusiasm. And you're
yeah,
so like you're always sharing your art, which is so cool.
yeah. I share it because I get feedback. But the people who are like my day one ride or dies literally give me input, tell me that they like it, like they're like that's a funky style, or like I've had some negative stuff, and like you're like okay, like what could I do, or not even what, or yeah, like what could I do differently with it, or just sometimes you realize some people are just mean, and that's fine,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is cool. It's to just kind of throw it out there and get mostly like pretty much mostly positive feedback back.
Oh,
Like
that's really good to
it's so
hear.
nice. Yeah,
Yeah. That's one of the things that I always felt uncomfortable in art land as opposed to art
yeah,
therapy land of art land is very much, oh, we have these art critiques. Like we definitely had them in art school. In art therapy, we really don't do that. We really encourage everyone to make art, which is why not, you know? So to
yeah,
hear that people are, providing you with criticism or negative feedback is kind of ouchy, but somehow like we've normalized it in the art community. I'm not saying I don't want
yeah.
credit for that, but it's
No,
part
no.
of it, I guess.
I'm pretty okay with getting negative feedback. I was in the army before, so I've had some pretty had some pretty extreme negative feedback, like
Yeah.
stuff that would be labeled as abusive nowadays. But yeah, very extreme and direct and immediate feedback versus
Okay.
like somebody's snippety comment for me. I'm like, okay, I have a little bit thicker skin than that. That's okay. I'll be like, I'll deal and move on.
Yeah. That's a
So yeah,
good
but
contrast. I
yeah,
got a lot of
yeah,
gentleness growing up. So,
yeah.
criticism wasn't always
You're
very
like, this is
common in my upbringing or education.
yeah. It's like this is a big ouch. Like, what could you possibly need? Whereas, like with me, I'm like, okay, just like
Okay,
keep
yeah.
my head forward. Yeah, just
Yeah,
keep
you've
looking
got tough
forward and keep
skin.
moving forward. Yeah,
Right on. I wonder if that has an effect on why you chose ink as a medium. Like you kind of
I like.
mentioned that it's less messy and it's accessible, but just the fact that you can handle mistakes with grace and you just go with it, whatever you want to like label as a mistake.
Yeah, I think why I like pen is because you need to really concentrate in it and basically be like this hour or hour and a half that I'm going to spend working on this piece, I have to concentrate. And if I do make a mistake, there is no going back. I don't crumple up paper. I don't start again. I'm like, you made this mistake and you have to make this right somehow with
Mhm.
like with either alternating my picture or just making it a piece or being like, all right, now I have to do the rest of this quote unquote mistake. I'm going to make the whole drawing around this now.
Hmm.
So like it's I think is which is a really good metaphor for life because
Yeah.
you can't really go back and you're like, all right, we just work around this now.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Kudos. I like
that's
that.
also a really good reason that I like to work with ink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm curious how you got into the t-shirt making as well. And as an aside, before that,
Yeah.
knowing you when we worked together, and rarely did I get to see you in your like John clothing, but when you would wear your own style, it was quite artful. It was stylized. It had its own vibe, as your fashion still sort of does. So
Yeah.
to me, in my eyes, you have always been this sort of creative person, just in like an ability to creatively express yourself through your clothes. So I
Yeah.
knew it was in you that you were an artist all along, maybe.
Thank
You
you.
just were late
Yes.
to getting there, and that's fine, you know?
Yeah, it just took 35 years.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, no, you know what, the expression of clothes is a big thing. So back, like, I don't want to be this old guy. Back in the army, you could go to the mess, but you would have to wear a button-up shirt. And I remember
Mess
they loosened
being
up.
where you
Oh,
eat.
sorry, a place where you would either be eating or like going to drink with your friends.
Okay.
And so like, but I remember when they loosened up the rules a little bit, and they were like, you can wear colors and patterns of whatever you'd like. And I just
Ooh.
basically being like, oh my God, this is like not like a black or a white button. No, or like I was like, I'm gonna wear a floral shirt. And like I wore a floral shirt like a Hawaiian, and like guys, like other guys, because we all had the same haircut. We used to have to shave.
Yeah.
So like we all look kind of the same, and being like this floral shirt to stand out. I got in some negative feedback to the point of a fist fight. So like,
Oh,
so like that was the thing. And then I remember basically leaving and being like, I'm gonna wear a floral shirt every single time, and if that
right
means I gotta
on.
beat somebody up every single time, I'm going to.
Okay. Oh, that's a
And that kind
vibe.
of was like my own stand to basically do that. Like to basically like I will do that because like it was clothes were the only way to express yourself without like because you could never have something like profanity or anything like that. But like it was a way to basically be like, okay, this guy's a little different from the rest of us. You
Okay.
know,
Yeah.
like I'm on the team with you guys, but I am going to wear what I want within the regulations.
Yeah. Within the
So like I'm like
regulations for
I'm
sure.
yeah, like I'm totally a rule follower. So I'm like, yeah, but I'm like if I want to wear like Hawaiian shirts or bright pink shirts, I'm gonna wear a bright pink shirt. If I can wear short shorts, I'm gonna wear short shorts, show
Yeah.
off my leg tattoos, like I'm gonna do that. So but how I got into making t-shirts was I had recently gotten back from West Africa, and their vibe and style for their clothing and their color patterns. I really like aligned myself with that. I was like, oh man, they're just so bright and just beautiful and just nice, cool patterns. And I was like, I wanted to just kind of start doing my own thing. But
Hmm.
even though my t-shirt company just makes shirts for other companies and other people, I think this year I am going to try and branch out and start making some of my own stuff. So
Yeah.
I'm just moving into another space.
Yeah.
So
And
yeah.
even as you were sharing some photos, was it yesterday or the day before? I can't remember. What is time?
Ah,
Some of your wording I just wanted to put on a tote bag because it just like made me smile and it was just so cool. And it's probably going to be one of my next projects, but I
nice,
could
cool.
totally see your art on things and stuff.
Thanks.
Things and
I
stuff.
want to put my things on things and stuff and
Right
things.
on. Yes.
Yeah, like leave my mark in a cool way. That'd be
Yeah,
fun.
I can see it. Are you currently making art every day? So what's your arting
I I am
vibe?
so I was destined to basically at first to basically be like I'm gonna bang out one piece every day no matter what. And but then I after talking to my friend Mikey, he's like, take your time. He's like, you do there is no real rush for this. And he's like, and if you don't feel because I was just like, here it is, it's done, here's my assignment. Here you go, guys.
Hmm.
And but now I've sort of slowed it down to basically being like, I really want to just kind of figure out what is my style. How can I kind of have my own sort of mark? Because I haven't been taught by anybody.
Hmm.
And so I've been taking about, 2 to 3, sometimes even 4 days to sort of work on a piece, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think it's each one's coming out for myself. I'm very happy with the way that it's come out
Yeah.
by taking my time and figuring out what these dots are going to make and like how to like make certain patterns for myself. And it is a little bit more time consuming instead of just being like, that's what a face is. That's a face. You know what a face is. See you. Like, whereas,
So are you making art every day? Because it sounds like at first you were trying to do complete one thing a day. Now you're really making sure that it is time to kind of incubate and to
yeah.
come to life.
So it is. I work as a carpenter in the military now.
Okay.
And so like I do get my creative outlet kind of with that as well. So either I am working on a carpentry piece, or I'm working on just like art. So there is a little bit of creativity every day.
Yeah. It's cool
So
that you
yeah,
get 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions.
yeah.
I like that mix personally.
Yeah. I've always found it was I'm very dyslexic, so like I could never write down poetry. I could never write things down, but like the art of making things is something that makes me feel really happy.
Yeah. And it's a way to kind
Yeah,
of externalize things in a way that doesn't rely on a very structured set of rules and ways of expressing ourselves. Like the English language, very confusing. Words are weird.
tell me about it. The guy who I guess didn't make dyslexia, but I guess was the one who like was like, this is a clinical thing.
Like
What a
potions.
jerk! What a jerk! Dyslexia. Spell dyslexia.
Oh yeah.
I can't. I've been dyslexic my whole life. I still can't. Somebody's like,
Yeah.
"Could you write down what medical conditions you have?" And you're like, "Oh, dyslexia." So
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's like brutal way to
Yeah.
say I can't read good.
Yeah. Or right good. I also
Yeah.
have dyslexia, but it surfaces a little differently. And also having autocorrect or spell check on computers has been a lifesaver because I could not have
Oh,
gone through 16 years of education. I don't know how long, that seems long, without
seems like a
spell
long
check.
time.
Yeah.
Jeez Louise. Yeah, no. Talk to text and text to speech has literally changed my life.
Yeah.
Well, when I was growing up, that wasn't a thing. So like the kids with dyslexia, and I was in a lot of special needs classes to like sort of cope, and it was very strange because like my the people who were there to help and assist and were like they would come in, they'd take a look at you, and they'd be like, "What? Why are you here? Like, there's a kid trying to bite the teacher over here, and you're over here like being like normal and quiet, quote unquote, normal and quiet." And I'm like, and they'd be like, I know how to do the test. I know the things on the test. I just can't put them down on paper. And they're like, I'm not going to write it for you. I'll be like, I'm not asking you to write the test. I'm just asking for you to be able to just describe what I need to say.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I know what it is, but like, so that put me very far behind. And I basically, as soon as I was done high school, I ran away from any
Yeah.
sort of form of education because I just
Yeah.
was a space I never felt super welcome in.
Yeah. That's
So,
fair.
yeah,
And for me, I felt like education wasn't optional. Growing up, it was always, and my university, my high school was also like that, where it was, I think 70% of our graduating class went to university. We didn't necessarily all graduate, but it was kind of expected of us. And I think
yeah,
in Ottawa being a federal town, there's this assumption that you go to university and you work for the government. Like a lot of
yeah.
us don't do that, but going to university is just something that you do here.
When I told people like that, not that I just had never gotten the grades to get to university, and people looking at me like they're like, "Oh, you're screwed. Like
Hmm.
you're totally screwed. There's no escape for you. This is it. You're
Yeah.
basically going to be homeless, right?"
Yeah,
And
exactly. Which is so silly
yeah,
because so much of our world depends on people who haven't gone to university. And it's
yeah,
weird that we overemphasize that. Like, why?
yeah. I don't know. It's just sometimes it's some people are meant to go, and some people just thrive in it, and some people are just not going to do well in that space. And
Yeah.
I think because I didn't go. It just allowed me to go on my own adventure. I was like the guider of
Yeah.
my own destiny. Like
Hmm.
nobody was
Ooh,
going
I
to tell
like
me where I
that.
was going to go. I started off as like a bouncer and a because I was a good high school wrestler, so like I was good in sports, which allowed teachers to kind of give me the grace to give me the grades I needed to get out of high school
Hmm.
because they were like, "Oh, athlete, good. We'll give him good enough grades so he can just pass because he shows up, he's polite, he's on time, and like just like does well for our school." And they see like medals going on the board from there. Like I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go do like a small college course, and so I did a small college course for like 6 months,
What
and
was
then I
it?
just went and did. It was marine industrial rigging, so it's
Okay.
just like working with cranes, learning how to like splice rope. It's a really
Oh,
weird
yes.
jack of
You
all
taught me how to
trades.
splice.
Yeah, yeah, that was the 6 month course that I took 10 years prior. Basically stuck around. I was like, I'm glad I took that course to splice rope.
Yeah.
So yeah, not really heavy into the book learning part of things, and became like when as a dishwasher and bouncer, and then somebody was like, "Have you ever thought of cage fighting?"
People
And
ask me that a lot too.
yeah, yeah. So I went and did cage fighting in Quebec and got to work with amazing athletes from everywhere. And yeah, I had George St. Pierre punch me in the head a couple times in preparation to fight Jake Shields, which not everybody gets to say, which was quite cool. And yeah, that gave me a tenacity and a toughness, and I got my grades up enough to join the army and
Okay.
started an adventure from there.
Cool.
Yeah,
And how long were you? Well, you're still in the army, right? Technically?
I'm in the Navy now.
Okay. They're
So
different
yeah,
things.
yeah.
I knew that.
They,
We don't have
one's
to
got
clarify.
boat. Yeah, one's boats. Like
One's
yeah,
land,
yeah,
one's water.
yeah. One's water. Now I'm just
Okay.
doing the kind of, except for I'm not really on the water anymore. I'm more I both on land doing carpentry for the
Gotcha.
Navy.
Water
So,
adjacent.
yeah, yeah, it's cool.
You're not carpentering out in the open water with just like a buoy.
Just making rafts for guys.
I don't know.
Yeah,
And you moved to Halifax in what year?
6 months into the pandemic, I moved to Halifax. So
Okay.
that was a weird, rough time to
Did you have a
basically move anywhere.
plan?
My plan was to buy a house and not drive an hour and a half to work every day.
Yes, solid
That
plan.
was that was the plan.
Hard to
And
do in Ottawa.
yeah, thankfully I can do that. I did. I completed that part of my plan.
Right on.
So
Cool.
yeah.
And did you have a job waiting for you there?
Yeah, yeah. I had joined. I remustered what they call. So like that meant
You
just switching,
mustard.
trying a new thing with the Navy. So they're like, you did
Gotcha.
land stuff, now you do Navy stuff. So there was a job. So
So
yeah.
remustering is when you go from Army to Navy or some sort of pivot from.
Yeah, yeah, just a pivot.
Okay,
So like it can be
gotcha.
in any direction. Any
Okay,
direction. So
remuster. Cool. I learned something
yeah.
new. And also, you were nursing some sort of injury, surgery, recovery situation. When did you get hurt? How'd you get hurt?
I got hurt about 3 years ago in West Africa. I had went to go check on some machinery spaces, and the sea state was pretty rough, and I ended up going to go check on an area, and basically it's a flat bottom boat, so it's pretty choppy out there, and I had fallen, and I thought I had sprained my ankle, and when the doc took a look, he said it was a sprained ankle as well, and I just basically was like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna tough through this because that's what you do. So I was like, it's a sprained ankle, fine. He said it's a sprained ankle. I said it's a sprained ankle. But what turned out is I had broken my ankle in the way that like only 5% of people would break an ankle, like
Right on.
on
Good job.
out. Yeah. So being different. Yeah. So the doc basically assessed it as a sprain, and we just carried on. And I walked on it for 4 months, and by the time I got back, they were like, "It's a pretty bad break," and it healed in a different way. And we didn't do surgery for almost a year because they thought PT would be it. Did the surgery. It went well for the first little bit, but I guess something had broken in my foot, and my foot had basically been pushed too far the other direction. So basically, it was like the inside of a hockey stick, and then they straightened it out now, and I'm about 4 months out from there.
Okay.
So
And it
yeah,
sounds
still in the recovery
like things are going well
process.
mobility wise. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, yeah. I'm walking straight, which is awesome. Like that's literally I don't they're like we don't think you're gonna run again, which I mean kind of hurts, but I'm okay with it because I think I've just had to walk with pain for the last 3 years. So
Yeah.
just walking straight would be great, you know.
Yeah.
So
Are there any other questions we wanted to ask?
what I'm taking away with this is I'm excited to see and learn new stuff all
Yeah.
the time. Like and just kind of see where it can evolve and go from. Because if you go from your first picture to 3 months down the line, how different that would be. So I'd like to see where it's at in another 3 months and another 3 months from that. So I'm just kind of taking it day by day, like
Yeah.
looking forward to growing, like just looking forward to growing.
Do you date your artwork?
I do sometimes, but I don't because I don't.
Okay. Yeah.
I should date it,
Yeah. I
but
sometimes suggest that to my younger clients just because to see that, like, oh, this is what my art looked like in this year, and just to see how much it's changed.
I that's the beautiful thing with the highlights
Mhm.
on Instagram is it does it for you.
Yeah.
So I have this one little section called doodles, and I started doing it when I was probably 2 months into drawing, and then from there it's been consistently just you do see the difference in it.
Yeah. Plus, when we take pictures
Yeah,
on our phones now, there's a date and time and probably location of where you made it. So everything's being documented, whether you
yeah.
intentionally do it or not. We also, for our next episode, we're going to be talking about rest, relaxation, and recharging. Thanks for listening, everyone. I'm going to
Thank you.
stop recording now.